What's up guys, Vital Syntax here, and we got a bunch of new information that's come about for DayZ Standalone. There was a panel that Dean Hall and Matt Lightfoot did at PAX East, and I'll have a link in the description to a guy that actually recorded it, which was really awesome because they didn't stream it or record it themselves. So really cool that somebody else in the crowd actually took the time to record it and upload it, which is cool. It's split up into 3 parts, and there's a Q&A at the end, which is really interesting. So what I want to do in this video is kind of go over the key points that they talked about in that video. Now I'm also going to put a link to a a Google Doc file that somebody on Reddit posted that kind of summarizes the whole panel, and he did a really good job of kind of putting it all into key points. So if you kind of want to go back and read through it all in a quick fashion, then I'll put a link to that document. But I wanted to, in this video, go over the key points that I thought to me were really interesting in kind of a condensed form, because there's a lot of stuff that they talked about that I don't think was necessarily super interesting, or it was more like speculation of things that they want to do but they haven't really worked on yet. So I'm gonna talk mostly about the things that have been worked on or are being worked on, that are going to be in the game for sure. Maybe not at the initial release, but over time as they kind of keep rolling out new content. So the first thing that they showed off at this panel was the new Arma 3 kind of inspired controls and movement, because everybody knows with Arma 2 and DayZ, movement was kind of clunky. It was very, I don't know, especially indoors, like moving through doorways and stuff was kind of weird, and the controls felt kind of delayed. There was negative mouse acceleration, and overall it was just really clunky and hard to use. So with the standalone, what they've done is they take inspiration from Arma 3 and just from other shooters that have much better and much tighter controls. So they kind of have a similar control system to Arma 3. They've also implemented the combat stance. So in Arma 3, essentially, if you haven't played it, because it still is an alpha, you can press a hotkey. For example, I think by default it's C, and that will raise your gun so that you're ready to shoot at any time, but you do move slower. Whereas if you press C again, your gun will be lowered. That way you can move a little bit faster, but you're not, ready to fire at any moment. And what they're doing, they're kind of developing 2 different systems for DayZ. One is the exact same as Arma 3, where it's a key, it's a toggle key, so you can raise your gun and lower your gun. And the second one is a hold key, so you actually have to hold down a specific key to even bring your gun up in the first place. And they're hoping that that might cut down on the kill on sight mentality that some people have complained about with DayZ, at least the mod. And they're not really sure which one they're going to go with. They're going to develop both of them. Whichever one people would like to use more, they'll probably stick with that one. They've also, like I said earlier, implemented a much better indoor system. I mean, there's a ton of new interiors for the standalone version of DayZ, so interior moving inside is definitely something that they've improved on. They've added a new jump animation it replaces the vault animation from Arma 2, and it's much faster. You don't have this really slow delay that you kind of just step over it. It's more of like a jumping type of mechanic, which is really nice. The next thing that I talked about is the inventory system, and this is a huge thing that they've worked a ton of time on now. They haven't had an art team go through and work on this, so what you're seeing as far as the inventory is very primitive. It's basically kind of the system is implemented, but it doesn't look how it's going to look when we actually get our hands on it. So keep that in mind, that the art team really hasn't had a chance to add nice menus and things like that. So each clothing item is actually going to have a slot and can hold gear, similar to what we have in Arma 3. So for example, you could put some medical supplies like band-aids in your hoodie or in your jacket. That way you can get to them really quickly. Or you can maybe even put a pistol inside of your hoodie or something like that has pockets. You can also put things into a backpack. Like if you wanted to put some larger items like an assault rifle, you could put that into your backpack or other larger items. So each individual piece of clothing will have inventory space so that you can get access to certain things quicker, which is really cool, and it's similar to what we have in Arma 3's alpha. Now they're also implementing a drag and drop system, which makes it a lot more easy to move items around from different pieces of clothing, to drop things onto the floor, to pick up items, to trade items between other players. They are going to implement a trading menu, but that hasn't been really worked on yet. But a drag and drop system is definitely something that's going to be a lot easier than kind of the contextual menu that you have with Arma 2 and DayZ. They've also implemented a hot bar or a quick access bar. Now this isn't like a skill bar like you would have in like an MMO game. It's think of it more as Minecraft, where you can have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on your keyboard as hotkeys, and you can press maybe 1 to switch your assault rifle, 1 to put your assault rifle away, or 2 to pull out your pistol, 3 to pull out a baseball bat, 4 to pull out bandages and bandage yourself, or pull out water and drink, drink something or eat something. That way you can kind of have quick access to things, so you don't have to open up your inventory, open up your menu, and kind of go through things. Like if you're in the middle of a battle or in the middle of being chased by zombies, you need to get access to certain things really quickly. That'll allow you to do it much more fluently. They've also implemented a very basic crafting system that they're going to improve on over time. For example, you could craft a splint by taking some pieces of wood and maybe rope or something like that. But it's going to be really basic, like drag and drop type of system. So some of the things people have suggested is maybe having like empty whiskey bottles and maybe some cloth and a match or lighters, and you can make like a Molotov cocktail, use that as a throwable item. That'd be really cool to see. But there'll definitely still be some crafting stuff, maybe not a lot of it in the initial release, but that's something they're going to add as the game is updated over and over time once the alpha is released. And if you're wondering, I will get to the release date of the alpha and some of the other stuff they plan to roll out towards the end of the video. They've also kind of changed the way you scavenge for items. So you've seen this in a couple of the previous DayZ standalone videos, but there'll be items placed inside of vehicles, maybe under tables, under beds, and cupboards and refrigerators. So it's not just on the ground in a pile like you have in the DayZ mod. You'll actually have to kind of scavenge around a certain area to find items, which is a much better system. And I think it makes that immersion level much more deep. The next really cool thing they talked about was a radio system. So if you've ever heard of the Advanced Combat Radio Environment mod for Arma 2, essentially it simulates real-life radios and real-life communication. So you can talk from your character by shouting, and anybody within your vicinity can hear you. It's similar to direct chat, but it's a little bit more directional. And you can also get radios, and with different frequencies you can tune into and talk to maybe teammates, but somebody might be listening that you don't want to be listening to. You can also craft a headset, so you can get a radio, but if you're using that radio, anybody in your vicinity can hear sound that's coming out of the speaker of the radio, which obviously isn't really ideal. So it'll be a way to craft a headset, that way you're the only one that can hear whatever is coming through the radio, so you can kind of use it in a more stealthy environment. Next thing they talked about was the medical system. So in DayZ you really just have blood, and you regen blood by eating food, by eating meat and things like that. But in the standalone, and this is a working system that might be changed. It definitely will be changed. We don't really know exactly how, but they have a health system, which is an overall status, which is once your health is completely depleted, you're dead. And your health will regenerate if your hunger, your thirst, and your blood are all within reasonable, they're all met and they're all fine. So blood is a short-term status, and it will regenerate if your hunger and thirst are met. Now, just in an example situation, let's say you get shot, you're going to lose health instantly. You're also going to lose blood instantly. You're also going to go into shock, or there's a chance that you might go into shock based on where you get hit and what you get hit with. And there's also a probability that you might start bleeding, so you might have to use a bandage to heal yourself. You might have to use some of the medical supplies to help with the shock, or maybe painkillers or something like that. You're also going to have to eat food to regenerate your health, or regenerate your blood, and then once your blood's regenerated, your health will start regenerating. So it's a little bit more complex, but what they're trying to do is make it very intuitive. So what they're planning on doing is to remove any type of heads-up display notification that, hey, you're at this health, hey, you're at this blood, but instead give you post-processing effects, or give you post-processing sound effects that will indicate to you maybe you're low on blood, so your vision starts getting blurry, or like in DayZ mod it gets black and white, things like that, which I think is definitely a better way to improve immersion. But I would also prefer maybe if they had a hotkey that you could click that shows all of your different stats. That way you can get a really good idea of exactly what type of medical situation you're in. Now moving on to weapons, this includes melee weapons and guns and rifles and things like that. So for the initial release, there's going to be and this is the alpha release, there's going to be very few weapons. because they're actually redoing most of the weapons for the standalone. They're going to be adding new sound effects, probably new attachments, not new attachments. They're adding attachments and adding new weapons altogether, probably adding new animations, new textures, new looks and feels to different weapons. So the weapons are really being overhauled, and they're going to roll more and more out after the initial release. But in the initial release, there's going to be a lot more to do with melee. And they actually said you might be able to punch with your fists and things like that, but there'll be a lot more melee weapons that you'll be able to implement, like machetes or axes, or baseball bats, and a bunch of other options, which I really would like to see a lot more melee versatility in DayZ. Now, the biggest thing I think most people want to see is the release date, and that's the last thing I'm going to touch on here, is that the reason that the DayZ Standalone has been delayed is because of the server client architecture that they've been working on. Once that's really finished, then they're going to start releasing the alpha. And they said that in June, they're going to do a review. And if everything is set in place and ready to go by June, which is kind of their target time zone or time frame, then they're going to release the alpha. That'll be the initial release. Be very dumbed down version. There'll be a lot of things that are broken that still need updating. So the game in its full release might not be out for quite a while in its full final form, because it's kind of going the Minecraft route, where they're releasing an alpha, releasing a very early, very broken build of the game, and then over time adding new content, adding new, well, maybe not broken, but definitely lacking content. They're trying to get all of the tweaks and fixes there first, and then they'll add the content over time. So things like vehicles are not going to be in the initial release. They said that they're trying to target an August or September release for vehicles, because they want to completely overhaul how the vehicle system works, and you'll be able to customize vehicles, maybe add like a machine gun to the top of it, or a bunch of other really cool stuff. And they're also planning on adding base building, which they said will not be out till the end of the year, maybe early next year. And it's going to be an underground system, so you could actually build, say for example, a stronghold for your clan. And the reason they're doing it underground is just because if you have it above ground, then you're going to run out of space eventually. So it's going to actually be an instanced, basically, underground area, kind of like what you have in Skyrim. I mean, if you go into your house in a city in Skyrim, you're not actually going inside that object. You're instancing your interior area, which is what they're planning to do for the DayZ Standalone. So that wraps up this kind of update. This is a lot of new information, I know. And on top of that, they're planning to do a DayZ dev blog within the next couple days with even more information, which I'm really excited to see as well. Once again, I'll put a link in the description to that Google Doc page if you want to read all this that I just kind of talked over, and a couple other things I didn't discuss that I didn't think were too interesting. And I'll also have a link in the description to the original PAX East video that kind of you can hear Rocket talking himself and some of the Q&A questions that they got from that session. But anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video and found it informative, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.